At 10 millimeters, this is one of the widest lenses you can get. So wide that it's too much for most subjects. But there is one that you can see, well, you can barely see it now because of the fog, but that is the Golden Gate Bridge. And there you need every extra millimeter you can get. And that is the reason why I bought this lens. But of course, I was also curious about what I could get with this in other situations. And I'm learning to love the very unique perspective this lens gives me. I wish it was, but this video is not sponsored and I bought this lens with my own money. I just want to share the experience with a piece of equipment that it's unlike anything I've used before. And the last thing I want is to make you feel like you need this lens or any other lens for that matter. You most likely don't. I didn't need it either, but I wanted to try it because after all, the tools we use change the way we see the world. And I was hoping to get a different, more unique perspective with this lens. In fact, these two lenses, the Laowa 1018 we're talking about today, and this one, the 70-350 telephoto lens, are the most fun lenses I own. I don't use them often, but when I do, it's a blast. And that is because of the widely different perspective I can get with these two lenses. As you can see in these two photographs I took from the same spot of the Golden Gate Bridge, one at 10 millimeters and the other one at 525. This wasn't always the case during the first few years of doing photography. I was limited to more standard focal lengths, anywhere between 28 and 150 millimeters, which can feel a little bit tight because you have to keep in mind that I cropped to square. But it was a great learning experience because it taught me how to simplify the scenes by focusing on smaller, tighter compositions. But let's face it, shooting with an ultra wide angle lens can be really fun, which brings us back to the Golden Gate Bridge. I photographed the bridge several times over the years, but every single time the lens I was using felt too tight for the compositions I wanted to make there. I tried using my phone, which has a 13mm equivalent ultra wide angle lens, and that was much closer to what I was looking for. But shooting with my phone is not ideal. The tiny sensor is not the best in low light, and I wanted to make some photos there late in the evening, so that's when I started looking for options for my standalone camera, for my full frame camera, and that's when I found this lens, and a very good deal for a used one. I bought this copy for less than $300, which is half the price of the current retail price, which had already been discounted from the original price when it came out. So I thought that for that price, it was worth a try. I recently had the chance to photograph the Golden Gate Bridge during a very foggy evening. Those are ideal conditions at that location, in my opinion at least. I know that this is a place that has been photographed to death, but when the conditions are right, it is one of my very favorite locations to photograph. And the Laowa did a pretty good job, even in low light. I was finally able to make some of the compositions I had in mind for a very long time, and they are now some of my favorite images of the bridge. These photos never get a lot of traction when I share them online, but I personally love them. And as I said, the experience of being on the bridge when the conditions are that beautiful, it's just something else. As I said, I wanted to see what else I could get with this lens and the very unique perspective it offers. You've already seen me doing some long exposures with it along the coast. The wide angle makes for a very dramatic composition. A strong foreground is going to help a lot because otherwise everything is going to be tiny in the frame at 10 millimeters. But sometimes that works, like when I brought it to Twin Peaks and I was able to capture a fog bow. I wouldn't be able to fit it in the frame with any other lens I have. I also made this image of the stairs going down with the city in the background and a beautiful sun star in the sky. Composing with such a wide lens isn't easy. Take this tree as an example. I was able to isolate it with my 85mm lens, but with the Laowa we are including so much more in the frame. Ultra wide angle lenses force you to get really close if you want to fill the frame with your subject, especially at 10mm. This changes the perspective in a big way, so it's something to be aware of. There are, of course, several reasons why this lens is way cheaper than the alternatives. It's a manual lens and the focusing ring is inaccurate. The markings there, if you set it to infinity, it is focusing actually beyond infinity, and it took me a while to figure it out. I thought I had a bad copy because everything looked blurry and out of focus. It's also a rather slow lens at a maximum aperture of 4.5, and the image quality is just fine. But in the end, the appeal of this lens is those extra millimeters that you get from 10 to 14. It might not sound like a lot, but take a look at these two photographs. I took this one with my phone at 13 millimeters, and this one was made with the Laowa at 10 millimeters. As you can see, you can get so much more in the frame with those 3 extra millimeters. So what do I think of the Laowa 10 to 18, of this very ultra wide angle lens? Well, most of the time it's just not going to work for me because it just includes way too much in the frame. I like simpler photographs where there's not much going on, and that is very hard, if not impossible, to achieve with this lens in other than very specific locations or in the right weather conditions. But when it does work, like at the Golden Gate Bridge, I just love the results. And the same can be said about the telephoto lens, another lens that I rarely use, but when I do, I love the images I can make with it. They are just another tool in the shed, I guess, and because they are both relatively lightweight and compact, I can always have them in my camera bag just in case I find a use case for that. Anyway, I would love to hear your thoughts about ultra wide angle lenses. Do you have an ultra wide angle lens? Do you use it often? Do you find them challenging, or do they fit your vision better than other lenses? That's all for today. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next one.